Great. Awesome. Just checking if everything's ready. All right, welcome everybody. Hi Jessica, thanks for introducing yourself. So joining us from Southern Illinois, thanks for joining. Carolyn, I'm just gonna say hi to a few folks and then we'll get started. So hi Carolyn, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. And again, if you feel like introducing yourself in the chat would be really great. It's really nice to meet different folks. Hello from all New York City. Hello, hi Marie, welcome. All right. So as you introduce yourself, we'll get started. We have a pretty full hour today, so I'm going to get going. But I just want to say hi to a couple more people. So hi, Crystal, welcome. And Nawaf, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. So I hope we're all in the right place. Today we're here for, and the title's a bit of a long one, bear with me, working towards the golden standard, increasing registered apprenticeship enrollments at the local workforce board level. Part 1, understanding the problem. So we're going to break that all down as we get into the program. And then we'll talk a little bit about this series. So just going to say happy Tuesday, Carissa. Thanks for joining us. We've got Reese joining us as well. So thanks for joining everybody. This is going to be a little bit of a participatory session. So it's really nice to see that you have joined us in the chat. So Lindsay, welcome. Michelle, I think we can move towards the webinar series. So let's talk a little bit about where we're going with this series. And we've got Carl joining as well. Thanks, Carl, for introducing yourself. So you have just joined in session 1 of a 3-part series. So we've got 3 parts, 1 per month over the next 3 months. Today is part 1 and we're exploring the problem. So our intention for today is really to get us to better understand the problem underlying the space of increasing enrollments in registered apprenticeship programs. So today we're exploring the problem. And then next month, as we join back together again, hopefully I'll see you again in May, we'll start to brainstorm the solutions. And so we're going to focus on the problem today, and then we'll look at ways that we can solve that. And that is in part 2. And there we'll be focusing on identifying potential action items that you can take back and start implementing. So that's our goal. And then as we sort of close the series out in session 3, so that'll be in June, we'll be taking a look at how to measure success. And so as we set up new or enhance existing programs, we want to make sure that we're succeeding. So we want to sort of draw a line in the sand looking forward, and then see if we meet that. And so we'll talk about that in session 3. The idea and the intention of the whole series is that participants such as yourself, right, so that you feel confident in selecting small changes, right? So our focus in this series is not tackling the big and scary. We're tackling the big and scary, but through small changes to expand apprenticeships as a strategy, right? And so the idea is then that you can test those changes and see if you're succeeding and if that is the right direction to move into. To do so, we'll be using human-centered design tools. And so that's a big part of the work that we do at Purpose Co. And I'll introduce ourselves in a moment. So human-centered design is a methodology and a mindset. We'll talk about that in a moment. And the idea is that we're also going to move through some of these exercises quite quickly, but you'll also have a handout that you can take away and work with these with your team. So the idea is to share that and continue the work with a team. And so I think Rochelle's going to put that link into the chat box for us. So you can look at the handout now. We don't necessarily need it for today. So I'm going to run through the session, but together you'll have the recording at the end of the session and the handout so that you can continue to do this work outside of the webinar space. Great. Thanks for sharing that. And hello, Naomi, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. So Rochelle's got the handout link in the chat, which is amazing. And let's take a look a little bit at how we will participate through this series. So the goal of the series is that it is participatory. So we're going to ask you to do some stuff. And often that means is I'll do some talking, I'll share some ideas, we'll set up a tool, and then we'll get you to do a little bit of reflection and sharing back. And so a lot of you already have your name in Zoom. So if there's a name that's showing that you would prefer, you feel free to change your Zoom name. We're not going to do breakout groups today, but it is nice to be able to connect. I know that I've met a lot of wonderful people in webinars like this, so it might be nice. Maybe you already know each other. And to that extent, we may be inviting you to come off mute or share ideas in chat. So those are 2 ways of participating today. And I always like to put in LinkedIn. So I've been in a lot of webinars as a participant, and I see people sharing LinkedIn on there. So if that is something that you're trying to build and you want to invite folks in your, sort of work sector to join with you, I think that's a great idea. So totally optional, as you like. As I said, this will be participatory, so it would be really useful if you have on hand a notebook and pen. So not necessary. I'm a big fan of writing good old-fashioned notes, and there's a point where we'll be doing some reflection. So this could be helpful to you. If that's not your thing, you could also use your computer or however else you want to take notes, or just simply listen and receive. So as you like. The idea is that you take something away with you today. So that's what we're going to do. And a little element, we're not going to be revealing too much, but there's this sort of confidentiality. We want to keep identifying details out of the conversation, or if they do come up, there is an element of confidentiality here. We want to take away the learning, but leave the details behind. All right, let's talk about what we're going to do today. So specifically in today's session is exploring the problem. So again, the idea is that we're looking at ways to increase enrollments in registered apprenticeship programs. And the focus today is exploring the problem. So the objectives are this is what we're going to do, right? So we're going to be able to apply human-centered design lens. So the idea is that we understand what human-centered design is, kind of as a lens, a methodology, and we can take that lens and apply it to problem solving. And again, some of the tools that we're using today are agnostic to the problem. And so in this webinar series, we're focusing on apprenticeships, but the tools that we're providing you can be applied to any of the other issues that you may be focusing on or experiencing in your organization. One of those tools is a problem map. And so we're going to focus on using a problem map as a way of exploring the problem. So I've been using this tool for many years. It is a fantastic way of really getting into the granularity of a problem, kind of zooming in and really taking a look at, sometimes we get overwhelmed by the largeness of a problem, but if we can zoom in, we can take a look at sort of smaller items, and those are more maybe achievable ways of solving a problem. And then finally, we'll close out today with a how might we question or statement. And this allows us to shift our mind or shift our thinking from focusing on the problem, super essential, to solving the problem, to solutioning. And that's where we'll take off from in our second session next month. So in this series, we're going to be using human-centered design tools. And I just have a quick poll for you all. Thanks, Carl, for sharing your LinkedIn. That's great. On the chat. So we do have a poll. Thanks, everyone. So here we're using human-centered design. I've talked to a lot of folks in workforce development. Some of you are really into the human-centered design piece. And some of you, it might be kind of new. So if it's new or if you're an expert, let us know who's in the room. And it'd be really great to know, just sort of to see who I'm talking to. So what I see so far is it's new to some folks, maybe heard of it. So a little bit all over the place today. So that's great. So some of you have taken courses. Yay. Good job. Using human-centered design in my work already. Nobody's professing to be an expert or teaching courses yet. That's fine. Great. Maybe just another moment on that. So we've got, again, all over the board, but half of you, it's new. So that's great. And the other half, it's a little bit mixed. Okay, awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain a little bit about human-centered design, and then we're going to dive right into those tools. So thanks for the poll. I think we can take that down now. Perfect. Okay. So why don't we talk a little bit about what human-centered design is? And this is really to help those of you who it might be new. So again, thanks for the poll. So human-centered design, as I said earlier, is a methodology. So there's a lot of tools, there's ways of going about doing this. And it's really also a mindset. And we apply those to problem solving. So it exists to solve problems, right, that people are the center of. And we in workforce development, like people are at the center of our problems, and we're trying to solve problems for people, right? So you're probably already in a human-centered design mindset. It's just language that you haven't used for that yet. So as we go through the process today, the mindset that I'm going to invite for you to think about is, who is your customer, right? I'm going to put that in air quotes, customer. Sometimes I use the language end user. This is a long time of working in, say, digital solutions. So end user, who's the end user? Who's the end beneficiary of the services? And so I'd like you, this is our first moment of reflection, and just for a second, is to think about who is your main customer in the work that you do. And that could be the job seeker, it could be the businesses, some of you may be more focused on educational partner. So I want you to just take a moment, and if you do have your notebook and pen, just write that at the top of your page. Like, who is your main customer? And if you fancy sharing that out in the chat, please do so. It'd be really nice to hear, who we have again in the room and who you're serving. So who is the human at the center of your work and services in workforce development? So just take a moment there, write that down in your notebook or make a note of it. And again, if you fancy, put that into chat. We'd love to hear from you. So who is your main constituent in the work that you're doing right now? I'll just give you a moment there. Oh, good. I have a question, I'm just looking at the chat. So I had a question on the side, and that is, are we sharing the slides? We will be sharing the slides at the end. So we're going to wrap this all up and send that out to you. So thanks for asking that question. And then we have a few other folks in sharing about who our customer is. And so employers and community partners, great. Thanks for sharing. Crystal, Carolyn is working with job seekers directly. Great. Community and job seekers. We have youths in Detroit. So thanks, Vanya. Seth is sharing like local government. Okay, excellent. Delegates, potential future employees. Perfect. Healthcare. All right. So we've got quite a wide variety. I'm glad I asked, because I think that's really important in a sense that the folks that we serve in workforce development can be quite a wide variety of individuals. So thanks for sharing that. We're going to hang on to that and we'll come back to that in a moment. Jessica is sharing businesses and adult youth and dislocated workers. Excellent. So the idea and problem solving with human-centered design is that we're keeping those humans at the center and their needs. And we want to keep that at the center so that we know that the services that we create are meeting their needs. And this is center point of all the work that we do at Purpose Co, which I'll introduce ourselves in a moment. But just on the point of human-centered design, and just as we were talking about polls, if you want to learn more, we do have a course, and that's something that we'd like to tell you more about later. But I know that Rochelle has a link, so maybe Rochelle can share the link. So we do have a course on human-centered design for employment and training professionals in workforce development. So we developed that directly for you. It's a really beautiful course. So if you're interested in learning more about human-centered design, that's a great place to go. But we're going to get a chance to practice it today. So before we do that, I just want to introduce who we are at Purpose Co and a little bit about myself, and then we'll jump right in. Thanks, Rochelle. So Purpose Co, who are we? We are a workforce development strategy, solution, design, and capacity building firm. So there's a lot in there. So we do a lot. I would say we're a small and mighty team. We do a lot of really great work. And in that, a big part of our work is designing and implementing custom workforce solutions that create sustainable outcomes for people and businesses. So we work with a lot of different stakeholders within the workforce development community. A big part of what we focus on in that and through that human-centered design tools is increasing equity, inclusion, and economic prosperity. So those are the things that we believe in and our values and what we're heading for in our work. So who am I? My name is Erin. So I'm a senior consultant, learning and development at Purpose Co. And I have spent pretty much my entire life in education, training, learning and development. So this is really sort of my favorite place to be. And as I was given more and larger projects throughout my career, I realized that I needed to get a little bit more behind that. And so I took on things like systems thinking. We're going to touch on that a little bit today, human-centered design, organizational development, and product management. So all of those things kind of come together to build solutions. Like really what we're trying to do is build solutions to help you, meet your end user, your customers' needs all that much better. So again, if you've come into the room after we started and you haven't introduced yourself yet, it'd be really great if you could do that. I think it's really nice to see people introducing themselves into the chat and getting to know each other there. Tell us your name, your organization, what brought you to the session today. And then we'll get started. We're going to jump right into problem solving. So hi, Joan, thanks for joining. Sorry if I said your name incorrectly. Thanks for joining us. It's great to see you. All right, so let's jump in and talk about problems. A little sip of water there. So I know we live in a meme universe these days, so I had to throw a meme in here, and I really like this one because it says a lot about solving problems. And I have a sense that some of us may think about registered apprenticeships in this way. So go ahead and type in yes if you have felt this way about either registered apprenticeships or any other sort of problems we may be facing in workforce development. So if you feel like that's you, that seemingly small earth mover trying to, remember that ship that got stuck in the Suez Canal? That's this ship. So, oh yeah, I get a strong yes. So quite often, thank you for sharing that. Quite often in the work that we do, we feel very small compared to some of the problems that we're trying to solve. And I know, and I've seen, and I've heard quite often that people will be in that place and kind of shy away from the problems. And I get it, I've been there. But I also have learned over time to think of myself as a problem solver. Thank you, Marie and Jessica. So we've got a few that are saying yes to this. Thanks for pitching in there. And Seth, thanks for joining us today. All right, also a yes. Okay, good. So we all know that we are small and mighty beings trying to face sometimes really large problems. And so what I'd like to ask you in relationship to that, so we've got a second poll for today. Another question is, if you feel like that person, would you consider yourself a problem solver? Do you consider yourself in your daily work or just as a human in the world as a problem solver? So we're gonna get a whole bunch of yeses there. Okay, beautiful. All right, yay. All right, we've got problem solvers in the room. Of course you are. Got 100% on the yes, absolutely. I think we can end that poll. We've got a resounding yes, we are problem solvers. Yes. Okay, so we can feel like we have big problems to solve, but we also feel very maybe equipped, or we believe that we are problem solvers. And to be honest, I never thought of myself as a problem solver until I worked for a solutions company. And this was, a few jobs back in the digital world. And then I thought, oh, that's a really nice way to describe myself. And then it became a mindset. So we're talking about human-centered design as a mindset. So is problem solving. All right. So why are we talking about problems? So let me tell you a little bit about where we're heading, and then we'll jump right in. And so I think, so what are we going to do? What's next? Michelle, we can take a look at, yeah, beautiful. Awesome. So what are we going to do? We're going to take a high level view of the problem. So there's a report that's just come out around this need, right, at a national level to increase enrollments in registered apprenticeships. So we're going to take a little tiny look at what that is, but the focus is then to draw that down and brainstorm about what that looks like at the local problem, right? So we may have a call to action sort of at the national level, but workforce development really happens at a local level. And that's why we're here today, is to see what we can do at that space. So in your organizations. So we'll do that on ourselves. So again, if you have, a notebook and pen, that would be really great. We're going to do a little bit of quiet reflection for a moment. Then we're going to share our ideas, right? So again, human-centered design is really about getting that collective intelligence going. So we come into a webinar space, into a room together. We're all in the same field. We all have it's slightly different, but similar experiences. We want to make sure that we follow through on that and share our ideas, because that might help you solve your problems. And then we're going to select something to work on. And we'll close out today's webinar by using what I call how might we questions. So it is a tool in that toolbox. As a way of turning our problem, we want to focus and love the problem and turn that into a solution. Now, that might seem like a lot. We are going to move relatively quickly, and time boxing is a tool in that human-centered design toolbox. So we want to make sure that we have, sorry, someone's ringing my door. I'm just going to let that go. So we're going to move quickly. Again, if you find that pace a little bit frustrating, don't worry about it. You've got your tools, you've got your handout, you'll have the recording. The idea is that you have a taste of how these tools work, and you can carry that forward and continue to work with your team on these ideas. All right, so we might, if we want to hand out that, great. Put the handout link in if make sure that everyone's got it, and then we'll move forward. Let's take a look at what that problem is. Thanks. And so taking a look at the next slide, Rochelle, you're amazing. Thank you. Okay, understanding the problem. So what I've done here is just highlighted a few points from this recent report. So the Workforce System Registered Apprenticeship Baseline Knowledge Assessment Report. So that's a lot. It's just come out. I've just pointed out a couple of things just to level set and get us, where are we right now? And that is in 2007, so 16 years ago, I think that's right, 16 years ago, there was a call to action in this TEGL letter, so Training and Education Guidelines letter in 2007 to, the call came out at that time. Can we start to bring registered apprenticeships into workforce strategy? Now, this recent report is showing that at the end of 2021, so a couple of years ago now, the number was pretty low. So what we're looking at is about 19 out of every 100,000 Title I participants were enrolled in apprenticeship programs. And so what we're looking at this time is a goal to just strengthen our efforts around that and expand apprenticeships as a strategy, right? And so the idea is create co-enrollments with Title I programs and registered apprenticeships. So bringing that right down is just like, how can we get more people into apprenticeship programs, and ideally registered ones? Why? Because registered apprenticeship program is really kind of referred to as the golden standard for workforce development and career pathways. So I had the opportunity to attend the National Association of Workforce Boards conference last week. There was a lot of conversation around apprenticeships as being a really positive way forward. There's a lot of energy that we want to put into that. And if we look at the next slide here, I get a yep on the chat. Thanks, John. That's great. So we have got agreement in the room, which is awesome. So why is that? I mean, this little nugget here comes out of a Department of Labor fact sheet, but the idea is that we want to focus on apprenticeships because we believe that this is going to help us move forward, especially in a post-pandemic economic recovery, right? So we're really trying to make that happen. We want to connect Americans to good quality jobs, and we believe that apprenticeships is the way forward. So gold standard indeed. Yeah, thanks. That's great. And very recently, as I was saying at this conference last week, this idea is that we want job seekers to get jobs, but we also need businesses to get the talent they need. So there is, we saw earlier that some of the folks in the room today are, their constituents are mainly the businesses, and they like this need for skilled labor, and continuously upskilling is so important. And so the idea is that apprenticeship in the form that works really is going to help us get into that space. So before I move forward, and I'm getting a yep, does anybody else have any sort of thoughts or questions or comments they wanted to add about just, this high level call for focusing on apprenticeships? So feel free to throw that in a chat if you like. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going. I'm just going to take a quick sip of water. And keep side eye on the chat. We need more national recognition. Oh yeah, interesting. Thanks, Naomi. I'm going to ask you to expand on that, but we're going to get into that in a moment. So hang on to your ideas, because we're going to get them into our notebooks. And again, we're about to move into a reflection activity. So if you do have a notebook, pen nearby, fantastic. That would be great. If you want to just like tap your notes out somewhere on your computer, that's also great. So we're going to start brainstorming the problem. And this is where we take this national call right down into your local level. And the question that we want to focus on here is, why do we have low enrollment? So if we're seeing 19 out of 100,000 and we want to increase that, right? Why do we have low enrollment at the registered apprenticeship programs at the local level? So what I'd like you to do is, again, if you're using a notebook, and I kind of got myself a little bit ready here for that, is draw a line kind of about 2/3 of the way down. Did I get, oops, 2/3 of the way down? I think, yeah, so Rochelle has shown us the slide here, which is much better than my notebook. And so we're going to do a little bit of writing in there. What I'm going to do is give you about 3 to 4 minutes and ask you to just bullet point down reasons why you think this is not happening in your local area. No judgment, no attachment, no resistance, just we're exploring the problem. And so we're gonna, again, bullet points. Why is this not happening? And we're looking for something that's not happening. So there may be lack of, or no, or, like what's missing from that equation. Leave the second column for now. Just make a list in that area. So I'm looking at the clock. I have 28 minutes after. Let's go to 32 minutes. So I'm going to give you about 4 minutes, just quiet reflection time. Make a list in your notebook. Tell us why registered apprenticeship program enrollments are low in your area. Just give you a few moments of quiet for that. Maybe just one more minute. Again, don't edit your thoughts, just write anything that comes down to mind. All right. I'm going to pause us there. Again, time boxing and also just moving on for time's sake. Brainstorming like this can often happen really efficiently in a short period of time. If you feel like you want more time, again, we'll get you the handouts, take this offline and continue with this. But for today, we're going to keep moving. But I'd be curious to see, does anybody want to share what they wrote down? Any thoughts or ideas that you want to share with the group today of why you think that registered enrollments aren't happening as much as we'd like to see in your area? So feel free to put that in chat. I know that I can share a couple of ideas that I've heard. One of them is quite often small, medium businesses don't have time or the wherewithal or capacity to engage in apprenticeship programs. Great, we've got a couple coming in, so I'm gonna stop my thoughts and share yours. So lack of awareness, yeah, might be number one. Thank you. And then Naomi is sharing in terms of highlighting, name recognition. Naomi, I wonder if I think you're gonna add some more, but I'd be curious to know more about that by showing support. Yeah, okay, great. So that's another thing that I was gonna suggest is like support. I feel like support is required in so many different areas here. Another idea, college is still the only career pathway. Yes, I think that might be one of the key pieces, right? And related to that, so I'm just looking at the chat over here, related to that. It's something that I heard a lot about last week again. So I had an opportunity to attend the National Association of Workforce Board conference, and they spoke a lot about parents, right? And so connected to Joan's thoughts here that college is the only career path being promoted, that a lot of parents believe that that's the right way, and that we need to convince parents, that apprenticeships. So talking to the parents. We've got a couple other thoughts on the board, so this is excellent. So length of commitment for, okay, length of commitment, nice. That's a great thought. There just aren't many existing apprenticeship programs directing people into, okay, so public sector careers. Interesting. So the apprenticeship programs might be going in a direction that people might not want to go in. They have different sort of career goals. Apprenticeships are not necessarily part of that yet. I'm going to put yet. Right, not priority, Crystal, thank you. So with all the other stuff that's happening right now, apprenticeships are not a priority. So this is a, organizational thing. And then, sorry, I'm just gonna come back and there's a bunch of stuff right here. That's great. So little do parents and guardians know that 529 plans and Perkins fundings can now be used, right? Okay, so funding, knowledge around funding and using that in different plans to get into the right places. Colleges are doing a lot right now. We need to get the information. Yeah, okay, getting the information to grade schools. So this was something else that I heard about a lot last week was, it's not even just getting into high school, it's you got to go earlier. So I see that, like, even getting into grade schools. So go early, get them when they're even younger. Someone was talking about doing a program where they disassembled a bike and reassembled the bike as a way of introducing sort of kind of trades jobs in middle school. So I thought that was super cool. Lack of knowledge of how to start initiative. Amazing. Great. All right. Thanks for all of your amazing thoughts. So we're going to hang on to those. And what I'm going to get you to do is go back over your list. And this time we're going to sort of categorize them. And so remember we had two categories. I want to see if I'm pointing to the right place here. So we have an empty category. And what we're going to do is just label those or categorize them to different areas. And this is going to help us get towards that problem map. So Rochelle, can we take a look at the next slide, which would be great. So understanding the problem. So what we're doing now is we're kind of listing what we know about. So we're brainstorming a little bit about what the problem is and exploring that. And looking at sort of, this is kind of where I join up kind of systems thinking and human-centered design, and looking at this from the perspective of what is the type of problem that we're looking at? What is it that we're seeing? And so what I'd like you to do, again, I'm just going to give you 2 minutes to go back over your list and tag each item as either a behavior, a structure, or a mindset. Okay, behavior, structure, mindset. Behavior, those are the things that we see. They're the most obvious, right? So I see this not happening. That might be hard, again, because we're looking at things that might not be existing. Where we might be seeing, and I see that sort of on here, is really more in structure and mindset. So structure being like the rules and policies, procedures around the behavior, right? And so if we see that, you know, this is not prioritized, that is kind of a structure. Like we have chosen as an organization not to prioritize that at this time. No judgment, we're just noticing, right? And then mindset would be underneath that. So that's that idea that parents are not necessarily buying in to apprenticeships because they want kids to go to school or take a different path. So that would be more of a mindset. So let's take a moment here and just sort of go through your list and take that as behavior, structure, mindset. Don't get too excited if it's not clear, just as an exercise in teasing that out, and then we'll take a look at that on a map together. All right, so again, we're just taking a moment to go back over our list and tag those items as behavior, structure, and mindset. I'll just give you another minute to do that. Again, don't overthink it. Okay, so I'm going to move on, and what we're going to do is take a look at a map, sort of where we're heading with all of this. So I think it's always valuable to do a little bit of brainstorming before categorization, because you just want to separate those two lines of thinking. One, I'm just getting ideas out. Two, I want to categorize what they look like. And so what we're looking at here is what I call a problem map. It's kind of based on an iceberg model. So some of you may have seen an iceberg, I'm doing a triangle here, an iceberg model. And the idea is that the behaviors are the things that we often see and encounter. They're the easiest element to engage with. We either see it or we don't see it, right? And we also often solve problems at the behavior level. But what often happens, because those behaviors are designed by the mindset at the bottom of that pyramid, quite often they'll just reverberate back. And so when we're problem solving, we want to put this on this map. So visualizing it is really important way of teasing those out, because what we want to do is start to tackle problems that are lower down or below that behavior set. So if we can look at structures, right? And structures would be, you know, the frameworks of those systems. So again, your plans, your processes, your rules, all metrics, like all of the things that kind of keep your organization going. And then the mindset says, what's below that? What do we believe? What are we thinking about? Are we prioritizing it because of funding, or are we prioritizing because we just don't believe that in it, right? And so the mindset is really important there. So that's what we're doing. So what I'd like to do is just spend a couple of moments placing some of your ideas onto our map. And so Rochelle, if we can go to the next one where we've got a couple of stickies. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so this is where we're going to do a little bit of engagement. So earlier I said you're going to do some reflection on your own, and then you're going to share those out. So what I'd like to do is maybe take a look back, and if you want to share in your chat again, but anyone who has some ideas that you would put high on that list, so more in the behavior zone. Does anybody, and you can come off mute or put it into chat. What did you see that was more on a behavior space? Just give you a moment. I'm going to see if I can find anything in the chat that I think would be in there. Old school thinking. Okay, awesome. I'm going to put that right down at the bottom. Right, here we go. Old school. Awesome. Thank you, Naomi. So I'm going to put that right down at the bottom, and whoops, I don't want to move that. Sorry, Rochelle. So I'm going to put that down at old school thinking. Great. Businesses are scared to try. Oh yeah, that's another one. I think I'm going to put that down here. We got a lot of mindset. I'm going to put that as mindset. Oops, now I'm making a mess of the board. Rochelle, oops, I'm sorry. I'm going to put that here. Fear of trying new things. Okay, so we got a lot of mindset here. So I'm going to try and type these out. And Rochelle's probably going to help me. I've got the fear one, fear of trying new things. I'll put that here. Lack of incentive in their minds. Okay, so we've got a lot of mindset stuff. That's great. Lack of incentive. So that lack of incentive in their minds. Okay, so that would be a mindset. I wonder, I'm going to tease that apart maybe a little bit. That could also be maybe a structure thing. We're not going to get too excited. Not aware of the programs. Lovely. So you know what? I'm going to actually put that in behavior. Again, this is tricky, right? Behavior is things that we see, but right now what we're looking at are things that we don't see. So how can it pay off for me? So incentives. So another one on incentives. Yeah. I'm going to put that kind of in the middle. I'm looking for structure, but I'm not getting it. These are great answers. Thanks, everybody. Not aware of the programs, fear of trying to, I'm just going to see if I'm going to go back here, old school thinking. So we've got a lot of thinking, massive, yeah. Okay, so James is already solutioning. James, massive PR campaign needed, indeed. So I wonder if that's where we're heading here. I'm going to put that here. Massive PR campaign needed. Watching me type here. Great. Maybe that's the solution. I'm going to put that a little bit to the side here. Great. Anything else before we move forward? These are some really great ideas. So I'm just going to sort of talk high level here. Rochelle, if there's anything comes up, I'm going to get you to maybe tack them on, and I'll do a little bit more talking before we move forward. So why are we putting this in the pyramid, and why are we looking at it this way? So again, part of human-centered design, or the design tools, is very visual. And the visual element is one, right? You've got a list there. And we did it sort of, you know, if you're doing it in your notebook, we're doing it kind of like low fidelity or low tech. So it's available for everybody. But the idea of being able to put it in a pyramid and look at this is that we want to solve the problem from that lower place. And what we're seeing actually is what's kind of underlying a big part of this problem is thinking, right? And so when we see the solutioning, we're heading there already. Yeah, so we've got already a yes to that. So massive, but no federal funds, right? So funding, right? So that's where we've got the need. Maybe we can make that a different color just so it's different. And then a need for funding for this. So we've got an idea. So that it would be more in structure, like how can we engage the structure, right? So that we can change the mindset. That's what I'm hearing so far. Great. Yeah, so open to suggestions on. So that's next. Naomi, you got to come back to our next session or do some brainstorming around solutions. So that's great. I feel like there was one more thing that I wanted to share with you here. And I think that is taking this forward. So again, we're time boxing this. We're going kind of rapid on this idea. Your handout has how to do this. So if you want to take this idea forward and take it back to your team and dive deep into that, because each one of you may be experiencing something slightly different at that local level, although we do see some patterns coming here. So doing this together, bringing everyone's voices together helps us understand that we're not alone in feeling this, and there's other people expressing that. Yeah, so we'll be there. Great. Hope to see you there. We'll do some solutioning next month. Let's start that a little bit by moving to the next piece, which is our how might we, right? And so we've already started that. So, oh, I was going to put a yes sticker on that, but that's okay. I think our yes, actually, let's go back to that for a second, because I like the yes sticker because it's a tortoise. I'm going to put that over there. Yes, this is what we need. So we've kind of decided that that's could be a great solution in that space. I like the tortoise or turtle yes sticker because, again, back to solving big problems, slow and plotting can be the way forward, right? Like this is not going to happen tomorrow. This is going to take some time. So we want to say yes and be able to move forward. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to close out today's session by switching gears a little bit. So we started by looking at the problem. Anytime you are solving problems, we have to love the problem. When I was in product management, that was the mantra. Love the problem, get into it, dive into it. I would, if I were you, spend a little bit more time on this, but because we're sort of time boxed by our webinar structure, we are going to move forward. So feel free, if you want to dive into that more focused problem with your team, please do so. But for now, the last thing that we're going to do today is switch that gear. So we're going to go from problem solving to turning that into a solution mindset with what I call is how might we question. So this is another tool in the design toolbox, and it allows us to make that switch. And so here what we see is sort of, I've given a couple of examples. So the big idea, right, that we're working with in this webinar series is how might we increase enrollments in registered apprenticeship programs, right? So the problem is there's not enough. So we want to turn that into how do we increase it? Then we can move that down into a more local thing, because that first big idea, that's like that ever given. Like I'm not gonna release that major tanker ship by myself. I need help. But what can we do on our own or within our team or within our unit to move that forward? So a local idea could be like, how might we convince parents, right? So that was something that I've heard a lot recently, that apprenticeships are a positive career pathway, or businesses or whoever. So we saw a lot of mindset there. So again, I'm going to give you like maybe 3 minutes, right? 3 minutes to write down 1 to 3 how might we phrases or questions from your idea. So whatever idea that you think you're like, yeah, I think we should start there, let's turn that into a how might we question. So again, 3 minutes, just a little bit of reflection, writing that down. I'll call us back in 3 minutes at 53. So 53 past the hour. And if you're super speedy and want to share one or the other or both, your how might we question in chat, that would be super. Oh yeah, contact Vocational Skills Center and school district CTE directors. Thank you, James. Yes. That's what it really starts with. Thank you. Is really just starting with contacting people. So I love that. I want you to start with things that you can do. Junior achievement programs. Beautiful. I'm going to try and get some of these on the board for us. No. Maybe I should just do one thing at a time. Junior. I'm getting some thumbs up on the board too, which is great. Oh, you've got that one. So I'm going to do something else here. I'm going to let Rochelle do the typing and I will do some reading. Then we'll move us forward. Local funding for our ads in school, flyers, PTA, etc. Yeah, we got to get that funding, right? So we want this PR campaign. But I like where you're heading with it, right? Is that we're not going, ooh, everybody all at once. Well, that's a movie. No. We're going for something really local and specific. So get those into your school flyers. Like start where you can. That's beautiful. Having councils and mentors ask youth and parents how they feel about education, college debts. Yeah. Have a conversation with people, convene, right? That's another big part of our work is getting people at the table, right? Apprenticeship nights at the local high schools. Yeah, these are some really great ideas. Beautiful. So while those are coming in, I'm going to say a little bit about, like, we're kind of heading towards wrap up. So I'll tell us a little bit about what's going to happen next. We are going to share the recording with you. We're also going to wrap up these slides. So the point of getting your ideas onto the slides is so that you can share those back to you. So it's not just my ideas, but it's also your ideas. And so you can take these slides back to your team with the handout and continue this work forward. So that's really great. We're also, if we didn't capture everything off of the chat, we will get that and make sure that it's on the board before we send that out. So ask Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs to do more endorsements. Awesome. You guys have so many great ideas. Awesome. Okay. Maybe just another moment on there and then we'll move forward. So also talk a little bit about what's next. So we're going to take these how might we questions, and that's where we're going to start next session. So I believe that is, I have the date somewhere, hang tight while we're typing that out. I'm just going to talk a little bit. May 2nd. Okay, so our next call together is on May 2nd, and that's where we're going to move forward and start to take these ideas that you have and break them down so that we can come up with some action items, because that's great. We've started with ideas and we've got ideas on the board that are small enough that we can actually tackle them, right? That's what we want to do, is move the needle. We're just looking at moving that needle. So what we're going to do is, like I said, break it down and go into a little bit more detail. So what have we done today and where are we heading with that? So today, what we did is that we reviewed very high level the call to action on increasing enrollments in registered apprenticeships. So we're here. I can see from the enthusiasm on the chat board that you believe that also that this is the way forward, and we all already thought about it, and we have some ideas to go into that. We explored that problem at a local level using the problem map, and we did that in stages, right? Brainstorming, just think about your ideas first and then itemize them based on where's like probably the most important place to hit the problem so that we can find a solution, right? And then we used our how might we questions to look at ways that we can specifically take that into our local area and start to work on that. And you came up with some really great ideas. So again, we'll wrap that all up and send it over to you. All right, so as I said, in our next session, in 1 month from now, on May 2nd, we're going to take those how might we and turn it into brainstorming so that we can actually have action items to move forward with. So that's the goal. We just looked at the problem. We're going to get you to solutioning next time. And then, as I said, in our final session on June 6th, what we're going to do is share, look at how we can measure success. So if this report is sharing what those reports have told it, and that's not enough, what we want to be able to do is find that data and put it into the report so we can share back and say, We did it. We're moving the needle on this. All right. So that pretty much brings us to the end of today's session. So we have a couple of things for you. What I'd like to do, we have the handout, but we also have an evaluation. So we want to share that in the chat. We'll also send that out to you by email. So we're going to send you an email to wrap up that will include the slides, the handout, and the evaluation. So if you missed it, you can pick up there. And we'd also always encourage you to contact us. We love questions. If you have questions now, I'd be happy to take them in the chat if I can, because we do have a couple more minutes, but I do want to get you back to your day. We would really appreciate if you fill out the evaluation or survey. It's 4 questions. It's really short. We just kind of want to find out, is this doing what you need it to do for you to move things forward? Okay, Naomi, thanks for joining us. You got to run. Yes, we'll let you go. Yes, it is. Great. So we hope to see you again in a month. It would be really great. And you see on the slides, please contact us if you're interested in more human-centered design or have questions about what we talked about today. We always are keen to hear from you. Thanks, James. Great job today. Thank you. We're really glad that you're here. We really believe in this. I think I am more and more and more into apprenticeship as the days go by. So I'm really, really glad to see so many keen people online today. Great. Awesome. So I'm just going to hang out for another few minutes. If you've got to go, we're done for the day. I'll just stay on until the top of the hour if you have any questions. Thanks, Carissa. I'm so glad you came today. Thanks, Megan. Thanks, Crystal. Please come back next time. We'll get through some solutioning. All right. Thanks, Megan. All right. What a great team.